Hello and welcome to the latest edition of our Sustainability Perspectives podcast, where we talk to a range of different packaging experts to learn more about how their company tackles the sustainability challenges the industry faces. So, my name is Elisabeth Skoda, and today we will get Bobst's perspective. Bobst is an international supplier of substrate processing, printing, and converting equipment with its headquarters in Switzerland. And the company has over 130 years experience in 4 different industry, which is corrugated board, folding carton, labels, and flexible packaging. And flexible packaging will be the focus of our podcast today. So I'm very pleased to welcome Sara Alexander to the podcast. She is the Global Marketing and Communication Manager for Flexible Packaging at Bobst. And she has a background in languages, like myself, actually. And she has over 23 years experience in the flexible packaging industry. She also has extensive knowledge of raw materials as well as printing and converting technology. At Bobst, she is involved in a number of innovation projects focused on creating new sustainable solutions for the flexible packaging industry. So, I'm really looking forward to you sharing some of that expertise in the flexible packaging industry with us today, Sarah. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Hi, Elizabeth. Thanks for the intro and thank you for inviting me, first of all.
You're very welcome. To get us started and to set the scene, could you maybe highlight some of the major trends in the flexible packaging market at the moment?
Yeah, of course. I think I can possibly group them into some main trends such as innovation, which would include things like automation, digitalization, the influence of artificial intelligence, of course, and then the big S, sustainability. So the need to live and work in a more sustainable way, but also to make our packaging materials more sustainable, which is perhaps the hottest trend at the moment. And then I would also say there's a lot going on about connectivity, so data collection and management, which then links back into the loop of innovation and AI.
Yes, and obviously you mentioned sustainability as a big market trend. How is this impacting business at Bobst?
So I think in flexible packaging, sustainability is having an influence on everybody, not just in Bob's. It's reached a pivotal moment in the market. So the global demand to make packaging more sustainable comes from activists. We see plastic as the bad guy on social media. It also comes from the consumer who wants to make our planet a better place now and for the future. So this initially spurred sustainability to become a buzzword. We see it everywhere. It's in every exhibition and it's in every communication. But then what happened was leading brands, converters, and key market players, they made the pledges. When the pledges came out to make their own packaging more sustainable in a very short period of time, this started to change the way things moved around the word sustainability. And then, of course, more specifically, we have the new packaging regulations, which started to take form and be introduced. So I'm referring in Europe to the PPWR, the Packaging and Packaging Waste Regulation, but also plastic tax in the UK and Spain. We know that's in EPR, so the Extended Producer Responsibility, as well as other actions that are also taking place globally in other areas of the world. So all of these together created a lot of market uncertainty. So although it's on the tip of everyone's tongue, we don't still know as a business exactly how things will change or how we are allowed to change them and if we can uniform this change globally. But what we do know is that as a result, it will impact everyone's business along the entire supply chain, really.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of things happening in the market, and very important to get some clarity and unification. Um, Obviously, design for recyclability is a big thing at the moment. What does that mean for a machine manufacturer like Bobst?
Okay, so you're right. From the outside, it seems strange. We are a machine manufacturer. And how can we get involved in the design for recyclability? I think, first of all, it's fair to say we consider ourselves solution providers. But however we're perceived, in our business, it is important for us to understand all about the new materials, so the performance, the behavior, and because we need to know how to process them and convert them effectively. This is because we need to support our customers in terms of the machinability. So basically, design for recyclability means to support the criteria needed for a circular economy. And we've got a few steps. We break it down into steps. The first thing that we do is that we make sure that we follow the guidelines and the legislation. The second thing that we need to be careful of is any new packaging still has to perform. It has a job to do to protect the content, to give shelf life. So we need to look at the barrier, the adhesion, bond strength, machinability, processability. And then the third point is very important. We need to avoid greenwashing, which is a dangerous trap. So we want to make sure that anything that we develop together with our partners is then authorized, is checked out by authorized third parties who can assess, they can provide recyclability certification according to guidelines. And then we want to check the environmental impact. So the packaging that we design, we need to verify how it's produced, the transportation. We carry out specific LCAs, so life cycle assessments, to get data on CTO, energy and water consumption, etc. The fourth step is perhaps the most challenging, and that is cost. Because no solution would be viable, even if we did tick all of the other boxes. If it cost 10 times more, it would not fly. And then finally, I would say we need to have on top of these steps a mental shift. So companies along the entire value chain need to make a mental shift in order to support the future and the future materials that will be designed for recyclability. Of course, the mental shift will be slightly encouraged by the introduction of EPR. Okay, so we're going to make it anyway. But this way, if we put all of these together, the new solutions can be sustainable and viable to the market players along the chain, but also to the consumer.
And how does Bobst get involved in the research process to find new sustainable materials? And also, why would brand owners, converters, and other industry players choose Bobst to drive this research?
It's a curious question, and people do ask this quite a lot, because we're a machine manufacturer, and people will say, why would a converter come to you? They have the machinery, they can test it. But the R&D needed and the time needed to develop these new solutions is lengthy. So for converters to stop their production would be anti-economic. Then partners such as the suppliers of materials, chemistries, don't have the equipment, so that's more easy to understand, and they come to us. In the same way that brands who bring their own partners. So the undisputed key to this are our competence centers. That's a kind of melting pot that brings together key industry players, and they all bring their own technology. Our competence centers were always active anyway, but I think with the pledges in 2019, that really soared. We saw the request for these activities soar. The main trend is to bring barrier. Okay, so we're looking at new materials that typically have no or little inherent barrier levels at all. So that's quite challenging. We are lucky to have facilities that have equipment for coating, for vacuum metallizing. So we work between Manchester in UK and San Giorgio in Italy. And then we have the experts on both sides, and we have fully equipped labs, which means that we can come into the process in real time and adapt and change and make sure that we improve it as time goes by. I think, how does Bobst get involved and why we're involved? Last year, to give you an idea of how many trials we did on barrier activities, there was over 1,400 different barrier-related trials in our competence centers. And then barrier is the first thing, but of course, we're looking at packaging. So if you try and imagine the packaging on a supermarket shelf, it's all printed. So once we've cracked the barrier, we need to then test these new materials on the other equipment, the printing machines, to make sure that machinability is okay, that they can manage paper. You can imagine paper, rigid, porous, and then MDOPE, highly heat sensitive. The machines need to be highly flexible to be able to adapt to different materials, for example. So in a nutshell, the past 5 years I've seen the activities soar. And that is why Bobst gets involved, because we have the competence centers, the machinery, and the labs, I would say.
And you mentioned things like barriers in flexible packaging, but obviously there's been a lot of change of materials being used to boost sustainability. And I wanted to ask you about the changes and new trends that you've seen in the types of material being used on Bobst's equipment.
Yeah, the trends, I think I mentioned just now that the packaging centers, the competence centers were already active for the R&D activities. So we saw the first requests in 2016, when we saw a request to move from Alox PET to monomaterial PE solutions. Clearly, the pledges in 2019 really sped up the activities, especially because the first set of deadlines were 2025. They obviously thought that was a long time, but that's next year. It's on the doorstep. And some of the brands have already moved that date slightly further into the future. The different trending materials that we've seen, to give you an idea, are BOPE, monomaterial BOPP, monomaterial PE, MDOP, paper, of course, and they've come. That's paper is the largest trend right now. We've also tested different types of printing. The market tends to prefer reverse printing, but if we're looking at supporting recyclability, we have looked at surface print for the de-inking as well. And then if we look at performance, once we've done this, we want to make sure these can. I mentioned machinability a few times, so we've tried high-speed printing on ultra-thin MDOPE using the 1ECG technology. So we're really pushing the boat out for all the different aspects, I would say.
And that leads me to the question, how do Bobst's machines handle the new materials?
I think when the market has been so static for so many years, it's different to suddenly switch and think, right, I've got to try something else because the machines almost went by themselves. But we're lucky to be a company built on multiple product lines. So over time, we have learned from each other, and that's how we've grown. And we have implemented the same approach to learning and building upon this knowledge in our R&D. So this means that on one hand, we've tested and tried different partner materials, different partner chemistries, but at the same time, we've tested different Bobst technologies and methods until we fine-tune them to find the right way. It's quite challenging and intense, but it's fun. It's eye-opening. So we've discovered along the journey new problems. We've developed new solutions, which means adapting hardware, boosting software, developing new processes, which in time has allowed us actually to create some new generation equipment and auxiliaries, as well as improve the process know-how. So
I thought it would be nice to look a little bit beyond sustainability as well. And you mentioned already sort of different trends at the beginning of the conversation. But I wanted to ask you, what trends apart from sustainability have you observed in the flexible packaging space?
Yeah, I think the forgotten megatrend could be automation. It's there. It's still taking place. If we look at the megatrends, though, that have been under the spotlight, let's say in the key industry events this year, there is, of course, sustainability, but also digitalization. So these are big topics of the current EVA. But this also goes along with the automation and connectivity, right? So it's data that drives effective automation. Automation needs machine and process data. So we need to capture it, to analyze it, and to use it, which means that then we can optimize the process in real time. An example of what we've done is our Bobst Connect. It's our cloud-based digitalization networking platform, which means that we can transfer production data to the cloud, receive data from it, improve automation, adjust during production, and get quality reports. So I think these megatrends are still going on, but they're still all intertwined, because automation will, in the long run, also benefit sustainability of packaging, reducing waste to help for production to be more lean and more efficient. So I think they are still there in the background. It's just that they get overshadowed maybe by some of the larger trends.
Yeah, I like the concept of a forgotten megatrend.
Yeah.
Yes. So my final question for you for this podcast today, it's always nice to wrap up by looking at the future. How do you expect the flexible packaging space to develop in the coming years?
Okay, then I think that if we look at what's happening now, the volumes, for example, we're living a current dip, a lull in the market. This was forecasted when we were expecting it. It's the post-pandemic effects. The market is slower. We all hear everyone say that people have been destocking. Inflation has brought higher prices, especially in Europe. If we look at the reports that tell us what will happen, volumes are due to pick up as of 2025, maybe initially to pre-COVID levels, but then the midterm, let's say the midterm outlook to 2030 indicates growth in flexible packaging, which is promising. That's in terms of volumes. In terms of substance, as I mentioned at the beginning, we have reached a pivotal moment in the flexible packaging. So I think it really will dictate the era for change. Materials will change, therefore machinery will change and will adapt, as will methodology. Further to that, process will change. So we'll look at the automation, more streamlining. I think there will be more artificial intelligence that we will see already in some solutions, but more will come in the future. The space inside flexible packaging will change. We don't have a crystal ball. We don't have full visibility, but we do know what's driving the change, and that's related to sustainability and legislation right now. I think we were saying before the podcast that the flexible packaging market, both of us fell into it. But it's a dynamic space. A lot is happening. It's offering us challenges, but a lot of opportunities. So it's quite an interesting and maybe exciting place to be right now.
Yes, there's definitely a lot going on, and we look forward to watching and reporting and covering it as well. So that brings us to the end of today's podcast. And just leaves me to say thank you for a really interesting discussion, Sarah.
Thanks to you, Elizabeth. Thanks for inviting me again, and I'll see you very soon.
Yes, exactly. If you'd like to see more of Bobst, the company will be exhibiting at Packaging Europe's Sustainable Packaging Summit in Amsterdam on November 12th and 13th this year. And for more information and tickets, head to packagingsummit.earth/2024. And we look forward to seeing you there. Thanks very much for listening, and goodbye.